Welcome to the Irish Exit Everything 2024 recap. This year felt like a speed run into madness, so it's really no surprise that Oxford University Press declared brain rot as the word of the year. And honestly, any random diva off the street will know that to be true. I mean, after all, we saw our fair share of absurdity. We saw a standoff at the US-Mexico border between the state of Texas and the US federal government, which served to propel the absolute myth of an immigrant invasion. We saw a cargo ship crash into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, and a different kind of crash, of the software variety, caused the largest IT outage in history, grounding a ton of air traffic. And while gun violence is officially a public health crisis, you can now buy ammo in vending machines in certain states. But don't worry, kids, your state officials are trying really hard to protect you by displaying the Ten Commandments in the classroom. And perhaps most bewildering, not only did we see the first former US president convicted of a felony, well, 34 of them, but he also survived an assassination attempt and unintelligible debates against two different opponents, just to be elected again, largely thanks to his MAGA majority Supreme Court and the billions of dollars in campaign contributions from the super rich. And of course, Elon seemingly buying votes for Trump. But our elected officials will certainly not be beholden to billionaire mega donors, right? Unfortunately, the rot goes much deeper. The wealthiest 1% in the US, folks who could realistically be described as supervillains, are the richest they've ever been. And there's no signs of slowing down, while a record number of Americans can't afford rent. Because people like those high-class lowlifes buy up properties just to keep them vacant and jack up housing prices. Which, of course, would be business as usual when housing is a commodity, as awful as it is. But the brain rot really sets in when you have the Supreme Court giving the green light to essentially punish unhoused folks for not being able to afford a rising cost of living. And we saw the fallout from this ruling in California, an apparently lived-up state, where Governor Newsom ordered the removal of encampments, when he could literally just let people be if you're not going to help them. Not very demure, not very mindful, and the moral decay doesn't end there. While American healthcare is one of the most expensive in the world, with medical debt burdening millions of people on the one hand, and insurance and drug companies reaping massive profits on the other hand, health outcomes in the US rank at the bottom among peer nations. So it's really no wonder that some folks might desperately attempt to do something about this structural violence with another form of violence, because what exactly are we struggling to pay for? A single-payer public healthcare system would do much to treat our medical and social ills, including brain rot. But oh no, we would much rather spend billions upon billions of dollars on the military, even though the Pentagon can't seem to pass a single audit. But they promise they'll do better by 2028, which sounds a lot like trust me bro. But we know for sure where much of our taxpayer money is going. It's fuel for a war machine that spreads death and destruction across the globe. In places like Ukraine, where the US has sent tanks and long-range missiles. And in Palestine, where after thousands of women and children, humanitarian aid workers, and an American activist have been killed by Israeli forces, the US government continues to deliver the weapons necessary to commit such atrocities. I know many people feel powerless to stop the ongoing genocide in Palestine. And it is a genocide. Made worse because the US can just veto multiple ceasefire resolutions over the course of a year. But there are plenty of examples that show folks will keep fighting for a better, safer world for everyone. The BDS movement continues to have an impact on the profits of multinational corporations. We saw students across the country peacefully occupy spaces on their campuses to demand their universities divest from programs that benefit Israeli military operations, with demonstrations often ending in excessive force by the police. Google workers in the No Tech for Apartheid coalition organized sit-ins to protest a billion-dollar contract that provides cloud services to the Israeli government. And over 200 local unions formed a national coalition to demand a ceasefire, which is a first step, but there's a whole lot more work to do. And there's so much more collective action that I haven't covered. And if we learn anything from these movements, it's that when we fight, we win. And there were plenty of working class victories to celebrate this year. We saw the California Faculty Association organize a strike across 23 campuses, the largest public university system in the US, and win two 5% raises. The Dartmouth men's basketball team voted to become the first unionized college sports team in the US. Volkswagen workers won a union in the allegedly anti-union South. And dock workers flexed their collective power in Striketober, tentatively winning a 62% wage boost after only a 3-day strike. All of these victories contribute to the growing public support for labor unions, which is at a 70-year high. This isn't surprising, because people recognize that today, right now, the world is incredibly unequal, just as it was yesterday and the day before. But we are responsible for co-creating a more just world for tomorrow. Of course, it's not easy. There will be friction, there will be conflict, there will be struggle. The powers that be have the incentive to keep things the way they're going, and they have the clear advantage. But let's not forget, in 2025 and beyond, there's more than one way to resist the rot. And however you choose to move forward, try to do it with and for others. Because community is key, and solidarity is the solution. Thanks for listening, and it's time to exit 2024. See you next year.